Hello and welcome to Visual Conversations. I'm Doug Neill.
I am Austin Goldberg.
And this is episode number 3. We got the first episode out for us, almost a week ago. But this is the first time we've recorded after other people have had a chance to see how this series looks. One member of the verbal to visual community, what's up, Raven?
Raven!
She said that the style of this reminded her of like a morning talk show format, which I think is kind of a cool vibe.
I think that's a little bit of what we were going for.
Yeah.
Thanks, Raven.
Thank you, Raven. She also suggested we get I get a verbal to visual mug and you get a Wayfinding Academy mug.
Oh man, see, this is why
in front of us. But neither of those things exist yet. I think they both will in the future, though.
Yeah, we could definitely make them exist.
Yeah. Austin, do you have any thoughts on having seen a full episode? Any reactions or comments from yourself or from others since you got to share it? I saw your mom posted it to Facebook. Good job, Austin's mom.
Thanks, Mom. I think that the feedback that I got was that they loved the concept, loved seeing me and you on video, just because, mostly it was from friends and family that I shared it with.
Right.
But one thing was that it was lengthy, which I totally agree with.
Yeah.
So I think that we've got some techniques and methods in place to try to speed that up a little bit and get us in that flow state a little bit quicker.
Right. Yeah. That was kind of our goal with episode number 2. Didn't end up panning out. I think it's going to be almost exactly the same length as I finish editing it right now. But we'll shoot for a little quicker, a little shorter. We'll see how that goes. Austin, do you want to go first? You want me to go first? How do you want to get things started today?
You go first.
Okay. Put you on the spot. At some point we need to have some cool coin to flip or something to decide.
Or like
who
a
goes
wheel,
first.
a wheel to spin.
Oh, spinning wheel.
Totally copying.
Oh, we're not copying any popular 2-person show on YouTube. Not at all.
None of those exist.
Not at all. So today's idea from my end comes from the book The War of Art by Steven Pressfield. Are you familiar with Steven Pressfield yet?
I am not familiar with Steven Pressfield yet.
So there are 2 books that I recommend you reading. Specifically, if you ever have a chunk of time off from school or to dedicate to a project, if you ever go away to make music for a week or 2 or something like that, read The War of Art and
or if say I walk the Camino in Spain for about 17 days.
Yeah, maybe, but I'd want you to have time to do the making of the thing too.
True.
The second one is Turning Pro. Read first this one and then this one, while you are actively working on a creative project. It's my tip for all you viewers out there too.
Hashtag Doug Tip.
Hashtag Doug Tip. Maybe not. And the big idea that I am bringing in from The War of Art is that a professional does not take success or failure personally. And here's a quote from the book. When people say an artist has thick skin, what they mean is not that the person is dense or numb, but that he has seated his professional consciousness in a place other than his personal ego. It takes tremendous strength of character to do this because our deepest instincts run counter to it. So for me, this idea is a little bit of a follow-up on both of the ideas from last week, both of the visuals. The idea that I brought last week was that one source of productive passion was, do you remember?
Source of productive passion.
Compassionate courage. That compassionate courage is one of the things that leads to productive passion. And Austin's idea was about this iceberg model where the things that the events that are shown on the outside are just the tip of all of the stuff that's going on underneath. So in this case, the reason this idea interests me is that, let's say you have found what your productive passion is and you're plugging away on it while you are working toward any sort of creative professional goal. You're going to encounter both success and failure. And I think the idea to not take failure personally is one that is somewhat familiar, not that it's easy to do. It's hard to not take any sort of failure personally, but we kind of know to pick ourselves up after failure and keep going.
Yeah.
I think what's a little bit less obvious is the idea that you also shouldn't take success too personally either.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Because there's this, your ego is at play here, and you don't want success to like artificially boost your ego to the point where you have false expectations when it comes to future work. So I like the symmetry in this image, that no matter whether you succeed or you fail on any given project, you just gotta keep going. And I specifically like the kind of like hikers aspect of this, because for me, as someone who enjoys hiking, I think in a lot of ways I actually enjoy hiking uphill more than downhill. So there's something even in failure about, all right, I'm gonna enjoy this climb up out of this failure. And then if I've had a success, I'm not gonna get too ahead of myself. I might, go a little bit quicker on the way down this hill, but I'm not gonna get out of control because I know it's gonna level out. And my main goal is to keep on trekking here. And the reason that applies to the iceberg model is that last week I talked about the tip for my iceberg were the 3 video series that we now have here on Verbal to Visuals channel. And no matter how hard I try, inevitably, like after I publish a new episode, just about like every half hour or so, I go and check YouTube, go and check Facebook, see like how many people are liking it or disliking it. Is anybody commenting? Do people like it? Do they not? So part of the reason I share this is that I don't do it very well. Like my ego, my self-worth is still too much tied up in the success and failure of even like the small things that I put out. I'm working on getting better at that, and I do feel like I eventually get to this point, but I think that I could maybe get there quicker, or not spend so much time in the immediate aftermath of sharing a thing worrying about the success or failure, and instead just kind of plugging on to the next thing. Austin, thoughts?
Yes. Oh man, this is a tough one for me. Because I totally get what you're saying of like just working on not taking failure personally. And that's been something that I've been kind of adapting to lately, just because I've been doing projects where it does take iteration.
Right.
And with that, there's really no room to take failure personally. And in fact, failure is almost welcomed, because it's like it's helping you strengthen whatever it is you're putting out, whatever it is you're working on.
Right.
So it's almost like failure is welcomed. However, I have never really seen like do not take success personally.
Right.
Because it's almost like I don't know, the way I've always seen it is always like embrace those failures until you get to a success, and then you celebrate and all that. And I'm just kind of wondering, like, is there room for celebration, and is it kind of just like the danger of celebrating too much and losing focus of what is really your direction, I guess.
For sure. Those are like great points. And there's 2 words that I want you to write down to reminder in your red, actually, because you brought them up. The first was iteration. So just jot that down as a word that we'll talk about. And the second word is celebration. So I think both of these pieces are really important, because I highly agree that building in an aspect of iteration to any sort of work that you're doing is very important. And I have kind of framed almost all of my projects around something that's iterative, in the sense that these are all like weekly series that I'm making, so that if one week an episode sucks, I know that I'm always going to have an opportunity next week to make one that's better.
Yeah.
So that aspect helps embrace this concept.
Yeah. And I'm almost kind of seeing, like, I don't know if it would be the best way to draw this, but just kind of like you go up a little bit and then you kind of like fail, and something doesn't work and you have to go and fix it, and just kind of I'm just kind of seeing like almost like spikes, and but I don't know if that's the best way to represent that.
I think there are a couple ways, both of which are equally relevant. The first one that comes to mind for me with iteration is just like a simple cyclical thing, in the sense that it needs, whatever you're doing, it needs to have a start and an end, and those should kind of like loop into each other, feed into each other. So this is kind of the I like how this picture is evolving so far. So this is like the process. I hope I'm not ruining your space. And then what you just mentioned there, I'll let you draw. You draw with that graph that you just described below iteration.
I had like going up a bit and then just like inevitably something going wrong, fixing that a little bit, maybe even out a bit, but you go down a bit again more. But the whole goal is that you're kind of learning from these valleys and you're going up more. Should we make this into a graph?
I love that the overall trend is upward.
Or should we do like a little guy?
Ooh, yeah, you could do You could do a little guy.
Right,
practice your stick figure.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. Let's see if I can.
Nice. And here's a word that I'm thinking you can add to this one. I was thinking result, right? Because like there's a process, there's an iterative process that you follow that, you know, when done with intention, I think can yield this result. Nice. Okay, so for me at least, that's how iteration plays into this whole piece, and I like how your visual ties in very nicely to the visual metaphor that we already have going here. Okay, so now let's talk about celebration. And really good question. Does celebration still have a role, even if your goal is to not take success personally? And I think that it absolutely does have a role. That celebration is an important piece, and often kind of a neglected piece to any iterative creative process.
Yeah, totally.
The question is, the nuance there is, what exactly are you celebrating? Are you celebrating only if it looks like this? Or are you celebrating this, the act that you did it and you got through with it? After each of the first 2 episodes, we have high-fived, and I've added it to both of the ends of the video after it fades to black. And that's going to become a thing for like this series. That's like the littlest bit of celebration, because we went through the process of recording this, of putting ourselves out there, putting ourselves on camera, putting our ideas on paper. So I think it's what you're celebrating.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. I think that it is what you're celebrating. Is it you're celebrating this little tiny peak right here? Or are you celebrating looking back and just seeing kind of like where you came from, celebrating the progress, celebrating that growth? And it's kind of like a time, if you're using it as a time of reflection, I think as well.
For sure, the reflection piece is a whole nother step in the process here. I think I want to do like, and again, to add the nuance here, this isn't to say like, don't celebrate at all your successes when things have gone well. This is just to say, don't make celebration dependent on this thing of it going well. Because more often than not, it going well is out of your control to a large degree. What was the other word that came out? Reflection?
Reflection, yeah. Because I think that's a little bit different than celebration. Yeah, I think reflection is a bit different than celebration, because it's like it brings in both of these. You know, it brings in the success or the failure, and I think that reflection in itself is not personal. I mean, it is personal, but you don't take any of it personal. You know, it's kind of like, what have I learned from this whole thing? What have I learned from this valley or from this peak?
And I think it's a great follow-up to, like, after celebration. This is kind of the immediate after the fact celebration, and then once you have at least a little bit of distance, and maybe quite a bit of distance from the event itself, then you'll have the perspective from which to reflect.
I'll go, maybe I should do the reflection in the butt.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I like that too.
Well, now at this point, the piece of me that likes symmetry makes me want to put something there, but I also don't want to force it, and I do kind of want to get to your idea too. So in the name of like our stated goal of making it quick today, let's jump to Austin's idea.
Yeah, totally.
And we can add things to this if time and thought allows.
Sounds good. So as we kind of mentioned a little bit, I kind of came into this session with the intention of making mine as simple as possible, like less text heavy, and just a really simple idea that we can do a lot with.
Yeah.
So I've got this book. It's called Steal Like an Artist by Austin Kleon. Good name.
Good name. Good book. I'm lending. Oh yeah, you have it.
It's in my bag.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm lending him the follow-up. Show Your Work. Also a great book.
But very, very simple idea that I think is very relevant right now. Use your hands.
Yeah.
You got any tips for drawing hands?
Don't try to draw all 4 fingers.
Really?
Usually. No, this depends on how big you're drawing it.
That's not too bad.
You did well. You did real well. Those are good drawn hands.
Yeah, not
I
too
think
bad.
that's better than I would have done.
Yeah, so the idea, use your hands. Actually, I want to read a quote first. No, I'll draw first. And then,
All right.
Okay.
Sounds good. Yeah, because then you can say the quote and then elaborate on it without having to like stop and draw. Process, folks. We're figuring out process.
So the quote that I want to read is, we need to move to feel like we're making something with our bodies, not just our heads. Work that only comes from the head isn't any good. Watch a great musician play a show, watch a great leader give a speech, you'll see what I mean. I kind of drew this guy getting kind of frustrated, just sitting down all day at his computer, feeling very stagnant, nothing's really moving, and then just getting up, getting some of that movement back into your body, and then ultimately just feeling more of that creativity. And I feel like this is definitely a process that has worked for me so far. And it's kind of something that I had to relearn from just like long hours of just sitting there, just using my head constantly, and realizing that I thrive, I do my best work when I'm engaged with my body and when I'm moving. And I think it's a common theme for a lot of people as well.
Totally. This makes me think he's trying to fly.
He looks like, yeah, he's just like, you can see he's like either flapping his arms or doing some kind of weird new dance.
Oh, or it could be, he's like warming up. He's warming up for like baseball
yeah, that's true too.
Yeah,
stretching his arms, his legs, just moving.
Totally.
This really happens like this. I can feel flat here when I'm just sitting down and I'm doing just a lot of papers. Which, I mean, isn't to say that it's a bad thing or anything like that. It's just that I need movement after a certain time.
Yeah.
After a certain while.
I think it's the balance of the
Yeah, totally.
Right?
Yeah, and I think that we could definitely write that word down there so we don't forget.
We'll find space for it.
We'll go for it.
This is the more mental work.
Exactly.
Right?
So I could probably draw a brain here.
What, maybe instead of just a brain, how would you describe, like, you could do like mental work, or like how would you describe this entire section of this chart?
Just, I want to just say like work you do with your head, but there's obviously a word for that.
Work that you do with your head. Head work.
Just write that out. Work that you do with your head.
Or mental work, or creative work, or...
I'll go with mental work.
Okay. So yeah, what would you add to for you the type of activity?
Yeah, so this one is a little bit different because I feel like a lot of different stuff can go in here. Originally, the way I thought of it was just kind of like what I do when I need kind of like that creative burst, or just a break, or I feel like I'm getting flat and I need to kind of boost some more energy into my body and get moving. And lately, like we did yesterday, playing a lot of ping pong.
Do you remember our match breakdown of yesterday?
2-2.
Was it 2-2? I think you might have had me 3-2.
I think it was 2-2.
Yeah.
Did we play 5 games?
Possible. Played a lot more than I intended.
Things like ping pong, things like making music, I guess. Like strumming on a guitar is a good one.
Does that feel like physical work more so than mental? Well,
I think so.
Okay.
Just the physical,
the fact
just
you're actually moving.
Anything like banging on some drums, or honestly, I feel like even playing around with the keyboard as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Totally, I see that.
It'll be a 3-string guitar.
It's the hardest thing for me, drawing guitars. To try to fit like all 6 strings, it just gets cluttered. So
it's a guitar.
I like your approach.
Even like, I mean, he gave this example in the book of just like playing with some clay.
Right.
Or like some Play-Doh, like old
tactile.
times. Yeah.
I was watching this new documentary on Netflix called, I think it's called Abstract.
Yeah.
Something about design. And the first episode was about an illustrator who has like Lego blocks, and that's what he goes to, even to like think through an idea or to make these mini models, like actually playing with something physical.
Yeah,
it's kind of cool.
I'm gonna try to do a Lego block.
Nice, that works.
These are gonna get better.
they're already pretty darn good.
Mental work, yeah. So this would be kind of just more, just kind of like engaging your body, I guess.
Tactile, you could say physical work, mental, physical.
Yeah. And then this last one is just, I mean, simple. It's just kind of like that energy that, I mean, I personally feel when I'm moving and using my body, and that kind of creative boost that I think is, I don't know, I think it's shared with a lot of people.
For sure.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, well, because there's something cool too about that you drew the brain and you called it mental work, and like this is all physical. Because, you know, even though we tend to think of like idea, creative things happening in our mind, and largely, that is where the brain exists. But this physical activity, like there's scientific research that supports all this, because the physical activity gets your blood flowing and gets more blood to the brain, more oxygen to the brain. So these like play really well together. What if you had like you could do like a, not necessarily a graph like this, but some like energy. Ooh, you could draw like a battery that's like filling up. It's like creative energy.
I like that. So what are your first impressions of what I thought was going to be simple and is now taking up the whole half of the page?
No, it's awesome. I love how like visual it is, how it's primarily drawn, and I love like the structure to it. You got like this flow to this, and then kind of like details down below. So I dig that aspect of it, and also just the general idea too. I have always enjoyed exercising, sports, all that growing up, and even like the past couple of years too, I've been paying more attention to the link between physical activity and creative activity. And for me, how I break down this physical work is into two different categories. I know we're running out of black ink. Hey Austin, you wanna pen me?
Good.
That'll do.
Nice.
You know what I really want to get for this office? I think up in that corner is like a hoop with a basket, so that when I throw things away, now I forgot which of these actually work. So that I can like throw things away, boom! And then, that went in. I swear that went in.
It did. I saw it. I'm a witness.
All right, so the two types of physical work that I imagine are, on the one, complete mental breaks. For me, that's how I would describe ping pong break yesterday. One, because of like the dedication, like the concentration that's required. Like you can't be thinking about anything else.
Yeah, it's like it's like a flow state for me.
Exactly, really yes.
Cool. And it's like meditative too, like the noise of like ball on paddle. Yeah, it's like, it's really cool.
We're getting good. We're going to get, once we get good and
we should
like,
totally record it.
We're going to. Once we get like good rallies going, just to show these people, like,
because they're probably thinking like we're just like,
we're playing for real. By the way, Sean Aiken, we're waiting for you to come back.
Yeah, we're coming for you.
So that's what ping pong is. That's what slacklining. You familiar with slacklining?
Yeah.
That's what that was for me.
I'm familiar with it. Not good at it.
Okay. Well, we'll have to do that sometime too. So those are great, just complete mental breaks. But I also really enjoy, I guess, what I'm labeling facilitative exercise, which are physical activities like walking and hiking. For me, are the two best examples, I think, where your mind can still wander. You can kind of follow thought paths and see where they lead, and oftentimes, without meaning to, you'll come up with new ideas. Like you'll brainstorm next steps on projects that you've been stuck on forever. So that really is kind of like the immediate feedback into this idea bank, whereas this one is just refilling this. But I like both of them, and I try to incorporate both of them. Well, maybe it wasn't until, I probably don't do enough of these. Most of my exercise, like running, also is this. So I need more ping pong in my life, is what I'm saying.
I just got hit with an idea.
Boom,
of what we can balance this out with.
I like it.
So the other part of using your hands is quite literally what it means. Like just doing work that's very tangible, physical.
That's interesting because I hadn't, sorry to interrupt, but I hadn't quite broken down the difference or the nuance between just straight up physical activity and like literally like working with your hands.
Yeah, and it's something that I'm seeing that like I really value resourcefulness. And for me, that it kind of has shown up in a couple of projects that I've taken on at Wayfinding so far.
Cool.
So like the first one was we talked about it I think already, but I made a saxophone out of PVC pipe for under $20.
Can you bring that next week?
Yeah, I can totally bring it. Literally the whole thing was just cutting pipes and putting them together, and like there was really, it was mental work, but more so heavily physical work.
Right.
And I loved it. And it lit up a part of me that wasn't really accessed a lot.
Nice.
And then this other project, which we actually finished on, Monday, is we have this experiment project in our Engaging with Information class.
I'm excited about this.
And so so me and another classmate, Ian, we decided that we wanted to build a RUBE GOLDBERG machine. And so for those of you who don't know what a RUBE GOLDBERG machine is, basically you complete a simple task. In our case, it was just to knock over a little flag domino. Like it just had a final flag on it.
Right.
And but in other cases it could be like pour a glass of water.
Right.
And what you do
flip
is
off a light switch.
Yeah, flip off a light switch. And what you do is you just add as many like physical steps to make it as complicated as possible. So in our case, it was kind of like you drop the marbles into this ramp, and it goes down around this little spiral, and it drops into this scale, and the scale goes down because it's weighted, and it knocks over a domino. And this whole project of doing this RUBE Goldberg machine was all physical. I mean, it was things like we had to balance it perfectly. If we moved our hands ever so slightly, the whole thing was set off, and all these dominoes fell over, and everything just went to crap. But yeah, so it makes me kind of think of how it relates to this quote right here of a professional does not take success or failure personally. And that was super, super, super important when we were building this RUBE Goldberg machine.
Failed about
oh my god,
50 to 100 times.
So we got it right. At the end of it, we did like rough estimates, and it took us over 21 hours, over like 21 man hours.
Wow.
It took us over 70 attempts.
Jeez. I'm excited to see the video now.
Yeah, and it's crazy because it's like you like take a step back when you're all done, and believe me that when you're done, it's the best feeling in the world because did you
celebrate?
Oh my god, yeah. Because like that's why I was like celebration is super important because something like this, it was the kind of thing where like I was literally about to smash this machine if we couldn't get it to work anymore. I forget what I was saying. I just got taken back there.
I like it.
I got taken back there. Oh, but yes, this you can't take failure personally because you have to use it in this iteration. You have to use it as a learning experience because the machine won't work if you don't do that, you know? Same thing with the success too. It's like you have to have a healthy skepticism too when you're doing these steps. Because if it works one time, it's like, okay, that's great, but that's not the whole thing.
Right.
And it's like we can't celebrate every step of the process. We can't celebrate every one of these little peaks because there's more to the whole process. We had to just keep going and make sure this whole machine fed together and worked really nicely.
I like
it's really cool. I'm glad that came up because that was that was super relevant.
Yeah. I like how every week our ideas seem to tie together pretty darn nicely.
Yeah. So the other thing I thought of was this word balance, and I want to hear it from your point of view, like how this whole work of verbal to visual uses that balance of this mental work and this physical work. Because I mean, you're tangibly doing things, you're writing things all the time.
So when I think of how the balance between mental and physical work applies to sketchnoting and everything going on here at verbal to visual, it's kind of a cool microcosm maybe of what's going on here, is that as sketchnoters, as visual note takers, we are actively taking in information. We're listening to something, reading something, and trying to make sense of it. And that's pretty heavy mental work. What we do with that mental work, the expression of that mental work, is whatever makes it onto the page. Some combination of images and words to express that thing that we were thinking about. And as opposed to it being like just first one, then the other, it's kind of this continuous loop. You're constantly thinking about something and maybe listening to something new. Like there's kind of always some sort of input, and then you're continually getting something new down onto the page. And hopefully, too, as you do it, it becomes less of a clutter to like maybe like I'm gonna make this thicker. After you go through this cycle for a certain number of times, then that actually leads to, here's how I draw light bulbs.
That's cool.
It actually leads to some clarity, but there's something about the tactile nature of it, that you're doing something with your hands that facilitates what's going on in the brain, that feeds this whole process, which I think is cool. We've used our hands so much throughout this episode.
I think this looks pretty good.
Yeah, I'm liking it.
Yeah, me too.
Brief step back to see if there's any other connections we want to make
Brief reflection.
Here. Brief reflection after a nice little celebration. Like, yeah, this does look cool. All right, let's see what we can do. any experiments we want to do next? They're like blended together so much too already that is kind of that I like.
Yeah, I think that's like a theme here of like, I mean,
blending.
Yeah, hopefully going forward, it just kind of is seamless.
Yeah.
Yeah. Once I work on my guitars, because those are pretty clearly my guitars.
Could be a guitar, could be like a cello.
I feel like I made it too big.
Stand-up bass.
Yeah.
It's clear though, like what type of instrument. It's clear that it's a musical instrument. It's a string.
Let me know if you liked that guitar.
Yeah. Thumbs up if you liked Austin's guitar here. All right, so I think we might be pretty good here. I like how integrated this visual is. I like how visual it is too. I think this is the most visuals we've had on the page, and I don't know, something about the overall capturing of ideas.
Yeah. Just
a little bit cleaner maybe than the past couple episodes. So.
Yeah, and I think it might have came as like a just like nervousness to like do more visuals. Yeah, I think it's kind of intimidating to do visuals like kind of for the first time, but it looks a lot cleaner. I mean, even though like I can see some areas for improvement, it does look a lot better to me.
Yeah. Okay, now it's time to write titles and names.
Cool.
Hey Austin, is there a website or social media account where I can send people who want to learn more about you to?
Not yet, Doug.
Not yet. Do you mind me asking you that question every single episode?
No, that's fine, because there's going to be one day where there is.
Okay, I was going to say, do you want to eventually be sharing your stuff online, whatever your stuff is and all that?
It's definitely a goal of mine.
Do you think that'll make its way into what goes on at Wayfinding, or
we've got we're working on portfolios right now. Cool. Just kind of like an online place to put all our work that we're doing.
Nice.
So it's kind of like the stage we're in.
Yeah.
So not yet, but soon.
Okay. Soon.
All right. How do we want to do this? Is it usually visual and red, or is it just black and black?
We could do it. So usually, like visual conversations, one of those two words is red, the other's blue because of that. And then.
And they're both in speech bubbles, or?
We've done speech bubbles in the past.
Should we just go for it?
Yeah.
Cool.
I give you complete control. So I can blame you if it looks bad. Well done. So with that, I think we'll wrap up for today. If you would like to learn how to build these skills that we just demonstrated, check out verbaltovisual.com. All sorts of resources there. You can check out our past episodes. Check out the other series here at Verbal to Visual.
And if you're interested in all of this work that I've been talking about, that I've been doing at this school, Wayfinding Academy, check that out, wayfindingacademy.org. And also, we're looking for some new cohort members for cohort 2 as well.
Yeah,
so,
that's right.
Yeah, so check that out.
That time of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're interested, teachers, parents, high school students, college students, adults who want to do something new and interesting, check it out.
Check that out.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.
Nice.
3 for 4. I'm gonna say. I feel like we should count that first one.
Yeah, that's 75%.
That's 75%.
If we're just
gonna keep going up.
3-pointers, that's good.
That is good.
Yeah.
Or like, if that's our batting average, that's also very good.
That's also good. Free throws, average.
Average.
We could work on our free throws.
Yeah. Let's pretend we're playing baseball.